This is the PitchVision Academy Cricket Show, Series 7, Episode 23, An Audacious Goal. Coming up on this week's PitchVision Academy Cricket Show, we have a question from a listener. With an audacious goal, can he make international cricket in 3 years? We'll see if we can help him out with that. We also talk about fielding standards, how you measure it, how you improve those standards over time, and we help a young player who has managed to score runs but not at the pace that he wants to score them at. All that and more coming up on this week's PitchVision Academy Cricket Show. Welcome to the PitchVision Academy Cricket Show, your guide to a better cricket. Half an hour of a chat between 3 cricket coaches from all around the United Kingdom. My name is David Hinchliffe. I look after things, and helping me to help you is the Director of Cricket Coaching at Millfield School. It's Mark Garaway. Hello, Gareth. How are you?
Yeah, all good here. I'm just working my way through the Glastonbury traffic. It's pretty soggy down here, and I think it's taken people a long time to get onto the site of the massive music festival this week. So, yeah, not too much movement in the traffic around me. So I'm weaving my way through on my usual walk down to go and get myself a Diet Coke. Other soft drinks are available, obviously.
Secondly, it's the cricket professional at Portsmouth Grammar School. It's Sam Lavery. Hello, Lavers.
Hello there. Nice that technology's working again.
Yeah, a few technical difficulties before the show started, but touch wood, everything is working okay at the moment. And they've even stopped mowing the lawn outside, so that's even better. So everything's going our way. So let's go on to the topic of the day, related to cricket, of course, which is fielding standards. And the reason why this was on my mind was that I was having a look. It's about halfway through our season now. Well, it's exactly halfway through our season at West of Scotland. So I was having a look at some of the stats that I've been keeping through the year, and we're doing okay. We catch just over half of the opportunities we have to take a catch, and we are probably just about as good at doing good stops and saving runs as we are at doing misfields. So it kind of balances itself out, I think, or it has done so far anyway over the course of the season. And so I was trying to think of ways of, great, we work really hard on fielding. We practice it two to 3 times a week. But I want to try and improve those figures because, 50% catch rate could be better, obviously. And, the fewer the misfields, the better. And the more good stops, the better. So I wanted to know what you guys do when you feel like, in terms of volume, you've got your fielding standards where you want them to be. But how do you measure fielding standards, and then when you've got those measures, what do you do to improve when you have already got in place as much volume as you think you can get in?
Yeah, measurement of fielding is a really good one. I'm somebody who's sort of done it really to the nth degree, and then also somebody who's done it sort of fairly subjectively as well. I think the crucial thing with any stats or evidence that you collect is that it's then how you use it, how you apply it, which is really important. And so one of the things that we're doing at the moment is just producing a mountainscape, and I'm going to write about this in a column over the next couple of weeks, which is a bit of a subjective feel for where we are at different parts of the game, but often when you're bowling and when you're fielding, it's probably the biggest indicator of where you are as a fielding time at that given fielding side at that point in time. So I'll allude more about that in the article, but it's a real good way of getting a sense of where the ebbs and flows of an innings go, and maybe what the focus of that fielding side is at any given point in time, rather than focusing on balls that you stop or balls that you catch or balls that you drop.
Yeah, I do like to, based on what you said before, Gareth, I do like to keep the stats sort of in the background. So, because some people do like the stats and they like to look at them, and some people don't, and that's fine with me. It's also a great tool when somebody says we didn't field very well this week. I can then say, well, actually, look at that, and it can undermine what people say if they feel like they didn't feel very well, and you can say, well, actually, we didn't do as bad as maybe you think. So and it's nice to be able to see trends and things, and also for statistically speaking, if you see if I see percentages going up, or if I see number of misfields going down, I'm thinking, okay, well, what we're working on here seems to be having an effect in some way or another. So because I'm a bit of a stats guy anyway, I find it a really useful tool to do that. But I totally understand that some guys don't want to know what the numbers are. You know, they'd rather just get on with telling themselves the story of, I'm going to stop everything today, and that's fine with me. What about you, Labers? How much do you measure things, and how do you judge whether what you're doing is being effective or not?
Yeah, I've gone back and forth over the last 4 or 5 years really on how I'm doing this. Currently, I keep a little record to myself of a few things that I want to track, and that's generally working out where our opportunities are to do things better. So, are we missing opportunities that are flat catches, high catches? Are we missing them because of the catching? Are we missing them because of the movement? Are we missing them because of the anticipation or concentration or whatever it would be? And I'm trying to categorize where we could have improved or where we could have done something better, and then tally those things up. And I generally keep them for myself, but that might have a reflection on how we will we'll go about training. Our group reflection is pretty much discussion. So I will have a bit of statistical backing for it from the notes I've made, but I won't necessarily raise them. But we're actually getting to a stage where the boys are pretty good at leading that discussion themselves on what did we do well today? Where do we need to work? If you were in charge of the session, if you were in charge of your you are in charge of your own kind of development. So, given that you're in charge of it, where would you like to focus? Where do you need to improve? Given not only today, because I think you can very easily get quite reactive to immediate outcomes and just say, I got this wrong, I've got to go and fix it. But if we think about today, and we also think about the discussion we had last week, and I'll usually have a few notes from it, and the week before. And if we work back over the last 2 or 3 games, given what we've had and what we've talked about, what direction do we want to go in from here? And that's really good for them to have a bit of ownership of it. Not all the time, because sometimes I'll kind of take over and say this is where I want us to go. I want to try something that maybe they wouldn't be aware of, but generally it's good for them to at least review. And review it as more than a single match. Review it as a period of time, and that can include to a degree what they're doing in training and how their success has been there. And it's good to compare the performances within training against the performances in matches, because often it can be that people are particularly good at a certain skill in the training environment, but maybe transfer into that performance environment is something that they don't do so well. So as much open discussion as possible, but keeping a little bit of numbers behind it, which can come out if need be, but generally I keep them to myself at the moment.
And what practical things come out of that discussion, Levis? If you once that's been talked through and you've got an idea of the kind of thing that the players are looking to do, and also you've got in your mind the kind of thing that you're looking to do, what kind of practical next step things, what kind of physical drills or skill work or practices do you get out of that?
Some really simple things that we get out of it are kind of reading the game. So we might do a fairly realistic mid-on, mid-off or long-on, long-off drill where the ball's being hit out in that direction. But we'll also try and couple that with what happens into phase 2 and how well people read the next phase of the game. So really simple drills, but making people think about their positioning and their awareness of the match around them beyond the initial contact to the ball. So that's something that's improved a lot, definitely with our under 15s at school, where we've had spent a lot of time talking about maintaining awareness until the ball is dead. And that has been that was really in evidence yesterday. We had a game yesterday in the National 2020, which we only posted 100, but the management from the boys in terms of boys and girls, because we've got Charlie Dean in there, a young England under 15 girl, but she, the kind of management from the group of how well they knew where they should be, how well they knew when they shouldn't be doing a specific thing, and their ability not to assume, I think, is don't assume things will go right. Don't assume the right thing will always happen. Be prepared for any eventuality, and just doing some simple training on positioning and having some discussion through what could go right and what could go wrong, and the different outcomes that could happen with every throw and every pickup and every bit of fielding has made an enormous difference to their kind of focus through to the completion of each delivery, which is when the ball goes dead, I guess, rather than until the ball is hit. And enormously impressed with them yesterday. So very happy with the group and the transfer of a bit of analysis to a bit of practice and then into performance, which has been really successful.
Great, lovely. I always like to finish on something practical just to make sure it doesn't get too highfalutin. Sometimes I feel like our discussions can get a little bit highfalutin, but it's nice to bring it back to some physical, practical thing that people are doing. So,
yeah, sure.
It's good to hear. Time now for the questions section, and that is the part of the show where we answer questions that have been sent in by listeners to the show, or perhaps readers to the PitchVision website over at pitchvision.com. And the best question of the week will win a prize, which is an online coaching course from PitchVision Academy at pitchvision.com. And if you want to send in your question, if you haven't this week, then feel free to do so by emailing coach@pitchvision.com. Cameron is the first person to have contacted us this week. It was via Facebook, which I'll tell you about towards the end of the show. And Cameron says, I'm a 20-year-old guy. I started practicing and playing properly about a year ago. It took me a lot of time to get used to the right techniques, but I think I'm finding my way now. It's going to be my second year for my club team in a few months. My question is, how much time should I be spending practicing batting daily? Assuming I'll be spending all that time doing quality practice. How should I go about practicing? My aim is to be one of the best top order batsmen at international level over the next 3 years. So talk about an audacious goal. How can we help him take a few steps towards it?
He's going to have to take out a few players first of all, isn't he? Yeah, I mean, someone's going to have to knock off A.B. de Villiers, Virat Kohli and Kane Williamson for a start.
Well, Cameron, firstly, what a fantastic ambition to go from playing only a little bit through to being an international superstar in 4 years is incredibly ambitious. And who am I to say whether that's achievable or not? All I will say is that often the best players in the world are the ones that have had quite a long journey to get where they are. And you look at somebody like Steve Smith, an incredibly long journey to get where they are as number one Test player in the world, which he's been and shared around with Joe Root and various other people over the course of the 12 months, and even his journey back in 2011, you know, he was the guy who everybody thought was the worst player ever to play Australian Test cricket, and now look at him, he's an absolute legend of the game. So you know, 4 years from start to international cricket, I'd say is ambitious. I can't recall that it's been done too often. Even Wasim Akram, although he was plucked from obscurity, he had been playing cricket for a significant amount of time before he made his Test debut. And from my own experience, you know, probably the most relevant one, Jos Buttler, who scored a fantastic 93 the other night against Sri Lanka for England. Yeah, I picked him up at the age of 12, but actually he had started his journey to want to be an international cricketer probably around the ages of 9 and 10, though, in Jos beginning to turn his mind on to what that means and what he needed to do and what choices he needed to make around that time. I picked him up at 12, other coaches picked him up in the interim period. And now, you know, he's going to the IPL and he's playing international cricket for England, going to World Cups and doing a great effort. But that's way over 10 years of hard work, which has got him to where he is today. So it would be an anomaly to get there in 4 years. But hey, who knows? It's great to have ambitions, and I wish you all the best with that. The only thing I will say does link into that is how you then factor your volume and your intensity in. So volume for somebody who's starting relatively late on that journey will probably need to be significant over the next 3 years if you're going to make up that time that the others have had on you if they started their journey around the age of 10. So in order to do that, you're going to have to practice for longer than anybody else, probably, that you'll be competing against. The challenge with that is then maintaining intensity, maintaining that focus, so to get that deliberate practice, to get that quality practice in, because normally as your volume increases, it's fairly natural that the high quality that you're looking for is going to drop off through fatigue physically and mentally. So it's going to be a real challenge, and that's one of the things that you're going to have to balance up. My suggestion would be to go massive on volume, both in terms of the number of games of cricket you play and also the practice that you put in the interim period. For the next year, go massive on volume. See where you are in a year's time in terms of the level that you're playing at. Whether you're playing representative cricket, whether you've got coaches on your side that are pushing you up into higher levels of representative cricket, and then start to sharpen. But you're going to need lots of volume to get yourself up to those levels where you're going to be looked at in a serious light, playing against some pretty good players that also have ambitions to play at the top level, but maybe started their journey a bit earlier.
Lavers, there is a danger, and you do see it. It's probably starting to emerge around about this time of year in the UK. Is you get people who have played a lot of cricket, especially if the weather's been all right, who have played a lot of cricket. They've done a lot of training, and they do start to get that mental fatigue, that physical fatigue, which means that training suddenly starts to become counterproductive because it's kind of you can't have the intensity that you want to have. So if you see that, if you see someone getting into that region, how do you sort of manage them to train a bit less but still help them with an ambitious goal?
Well, I think keeping the mind fresh, as you kind of say, is really, really important, because ultimately that's the thing that's going to take you out there, and that's going to make your decisions, and your decisions are what are going to kind of plan or dictate your successes or your failures. So anyone who's getting stale and anyone who's getting to a position where they don't really feel like the practice they're doing is taking them to a new level, and it maybe just getting a bit repetitive. I think at times you can take people out of their comfort zone and maybe just twist the way they're training a little bit, or even change the hours that they're training to try and reinvigorate and re-stimulate the way, maybe not the skills they've got, but the way they think about their cricket. And I mean, one way that I've used quite a lot in the past is instead of taking someone to a training session and letting them hit 50 balls, 100 balls, just for the pure fact of repetition, what about taking them to the session and putting them in charge of 4 batsmen? And instead of being the player, go and do a little bit of coaching there and challenge the way that other people play, and maybe have a little think about your own game and consider the things that you do automatically. Why do you do them? And just try and bring a fresh approach to a training session. So the same guys probably sit on the same training field at the same time, but his entire outlook on the training session, his entire outlook on cricket is being challenged, because he's suddenly having to help other people, and he's suddenly having to use the maybe the principles he's stuck by for a long time, and he's questioning them, and he's as a result he's maybe going to learn a little bit more about himself, and he might even change something. But I think that's one really good way to freshen people up, is just put them in a different role within the group, where they're still having a positive impact on the group as well as themselves.
Good. Well, I hope that helps, Cameron. Next question is from Kumar, and Kumar says, I've done a lot of practice, but I haven't hit a big shot. Only defence. My highest score in a school match is 52 from 88 balls. It's good, but I think that's too slow for a 25 over match. I want to hit every ball because my coach expects this from me. He always tells me, you can hit it. I come into bat at 4 or 5. So I thought I would ask you.
It's a top question, Kumar. Fantastic, and I think it's one that a lot of schoolboy players will ask themselves, because 2020 cricket's becoming more prevalent. You guys see it on the box, don't you? You watch it, and you watch your heroes, the Gales, the De Villiers, that make hitting the ball out the ground look so easy. And the bottom line is that very few of them would have had the physical capacity or the naturalness of a swing to be able to do exactly what they're doing now when they were sort of 15, 16 years old. It's generally when you get between 18 and 21 that your body starts to allow you to do those types of spectacular things. So patience is absolutely crucial. But also I think it's key to look at yourself and what type of batter you are, because there are different ways of hitting the balls for 6 and 4, and there's different ways of being successful in the shorter formats of a game. Somerset have got 2 classic examples playing for them in the T20 Blast in England at the moment. You've got Chris Gale, who's probably the best example of somebody who just stands there and whacks it, takes his trade all the way around the world and bashes ball out of the ground wherever he goes. Certainly Taunton isn't big enough for him. But also you've got Mahela Jayawardene, who's that master technician. He's somebody who's a craftsman really, rather than the big bludgeoner that Chris Gale is. And he's been doing some amazing things. It was lovely to see them batting in tandem the other day, to see how 2 completely different players at either end of the batting spectrum could combine and achieve some unbelievable things out in the middle. So if you're more Mahela Jayawardene, the things that you could work on is choosing one shot to get very good at, to master. Now his go-to shot, I suppose, is the one where he just moves slightly to the leg side, and I mean only slightly, probably a shoebox width of movement, which takes him to leg stump, which means that then the middle and off ball can be eased up over extra cover, and the way that he just leans on the ball takes it into that space behind extra cover, which is always vacant, and generally will curve that ball away from deep mid off and into that extra cover boundary for 1 bounce 4. And because he's playing at Taunton, sometimes 6, short boundaries and a great road of a wicket. The other shot that he's got and is the drop kick over the top of straight mid wicket. So generally when seamers are bowling in particular, you'll have that straight mid wicket in. If you look directly over the top of that fielder, there's a huge amount of space in there, and he will move a little bit over to the offside and hit the same ball that he's just hit over extra cover over the top of that mid wicket position. I call that a drop kick, and back in 2005 with the Somerset team that won the T20, a lot of our game plans was about hitting over the extra cover, which we called a line drive, and hitting the ball up over the top of mid wicket, straight mid wicket, which we called a drop kick. And our language and our practice, where we used to put down target areas to hit the ball into off the bowling machines, really set us up well to do brilliantly in that competition. And it set us up to do well both at home and also away. And it was great to be on the balcony listening to the guys talking about, and now Woody's going to hit a line drive or he's going to get over and drop kick it, because it had been practiced so much and we knew how good the guys were at it. They could almost pick the ball that they were going to do it. So yeah, start off with one of those shots, master it, then layer up on top.
I think that would be really good advice to take back to Cameron as well. In the first question, you can be whatever age you are. Go back and think about what are the key elements or key skills you need right now, and really take them to the highest standard you can, and then just keep adding those building blocks year in, year out. There's something quite famously Mike Hussey did, didn't he, for over a 5-6 year period, and from his early to mid 20s, he didn't just continue to bat and play and hope he was going to get better. He made a specific plan of, I'm going to master this shot this year, and next year I will have whatever it will be, and then the year after that, and you work through year by year or month at a time or 6 months at a time. But in doing that, you will have a structured progression. It may be one that doesn't get you to be the AB de Villiers you want to be in a year's time or in 2 years' time, because the structure of the progression dictates it's going to take 5, 6, 7, 8 years. But I guess getting there in the end is the important thing, and not many people get to achieve kind of the heights we've talked about in the first question. So whether you get there for one game or you get there for 100 games, I think getting there is a great thing. But for Kumar here in this question again, yeah, pick out one thing. You want progression. You looks like you've got some realistic progression that you're looking to achieve. So layer them up one step at a time. The other thing you might want to consider as well is, could your role in the team change to better benefit you and the team as well? So if you are a slightly more defensive player who doesn't clear the ropes well, could you find an easier transition into being an aggressive player by having the fielders in and possibly having a bit more space behind them, or a few more gaps in the field and spaces to thread the ball through, because you've got the new ball and the field is up, and maybe the field isn't spread in the same way it is when you're at 4 and 5. So again, think about how are you developing and adding value to your team, and potentially your role could be adapted to suit you better, but also to suit the team better.
Now we get to that point of a show where David has a minute up on the soapbox to talk about anything that he wants. Over to you, David.
I was going to talk about one thing, but I changed my mind at the last minute because I've just started using a new app, and it's got a little bit of a rubbish name. It's called Productive, but it's an app that sits on my phone, and the whole idea of it's a very simple app. It does one thing, but it does it really, really well. And the idea behind it is just to help you get into good habits from doing things. And all it'll do is it'll give you a list of habits that you type in yourself, whatever it is you want to do, whether you want to, read for a few minutes a day, or work out for half an hour every 3 times a week or something like that. You stick them all in there, and then it reminds you about them, and then it keeps track of whether you've done them or not. And it gives you a little chain, which means that if you do all your habits, you keep the chain going, and if you don't do all your habits, then you break the chain. And that is incredibly motivational to get things done that you want to do, but you find yourself not quite doing from day to day. So have a look at the app called Productive if you want to get some good habits. And that is just about all we've got time for on the show this week. You can also find us on Facebook, facebook.com/PitchVision Academy, and our Twitter is @PitchVisionAcad. If you want to listen to the show every week, that's pretty straightforward. It's free, and you can get it from any podcast app. You just go in there, do a search for PitchVision Academy on your phone, your tablet, your computer, whatever it is. You'll find us there. Tap or click on the subscribe button, and you'll get that coming to you every week. And if you want to get the show notes, you want to download some old shows, or you want to go through some of the articles that we have, you head over to pitchvision.com/academy and click on the podcast link for all the shows going all the way back to number 1. And that's all for this week. We hope you listen next week, but until then, have a good week. Cheers, Gareth. Cheers, Lavers.